Anthony Grassi from NAIA.ticker here for another small college conversation. Happy to sit down with Senior Vice President for Championships and Finance for the NAIA, Kevin D. Kevin, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So we're coming off of the new championship streaming initiative you guys have just fully launched in 2 parts. I want to start big picture. What was the main goal with this 2-part streaming initiative you guys set out?
I'd say there are probably 2 or 3 main goals, but we knew we were coming to the end of our existing streaming agreement, and we were looking broadly. We really wanted to uncover any rock and really look at all the options we could. But the feedback we had gotten from our membership over the years was we were behind a paywall, and they really would prefer for our national championships, at least at the final site, to be free for the user, for the viewer. And so that was one of the goals. Obviously, we wanted to take the opportunity, if we could, to increase our revenue related to that. And then, as always, we're trying to just improve the production and really the quality of our production, our graphics packages, and things like that, so that it's a better experience for the end user. But we knew moving to a free model, if we could find the right partner to do that and generate possibly an ad-supported model, we knew that would increase the number of eyeballs exponentially. We had seen that in a couple of tests we had done, and so those were kind of the goals that we had in mind, and we tried to explore all the options that we could, and came up with the 2 partnerships that we announced recently.
What were, and you don't have to go name names necessarily, but what were some of those tests you guys ran through to determine that this was the right solution? And what were some of the other alternatives that maybe the association looked through in this process?
Yeah, the way the Urban Edge Network was really the first announcement that we made, and so we've been introduced to them by the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, which is now the HBCU Athletic Conference in the NAIA. They were one of their first primary partners, and that's how we got to know them. And so really, once as we were talking with them, we really knew that it had gone well for the HBCU Athletic Conference. The test that we did with Urban Edge Network was we were having this conversation in the spring, and so we used men's lacrosse, our men's lacrosse invitational, which is an 8-team 7-match championship. We used that as the test and did that completely through Urban Edge Network. They sold ads for it on pretty short notice, to be honest with you, and everything went well. The production team remained the same, but streaming it through Urban Edge Network really went well. People were able to access it quickly on their app. The numbers were through the roof compared to previous years. We had, I think, over 6,000 unique viewers per day and 20,000 views per game as they counted. And so it was really the best test that we could have hoped for. I think we also did it during a couple of opening rounds in baseball and softball, and that went really well. Average viewers per day was over 50,000 for each of those. As far as the what other possibilities that we considered, there's obviously some of the major players in the space. Huddle has been a partner for a number of years. We used them in the spring a little bit as well. Presto Sports is who we've been with for a while. And then Visaic, who is the other partner, they're really strong in Canada. Actually, they've got all the major conferences in Canada, and so we got introduced to them actually kind of midsummer, and they're your more traditional portal for streaming, and we decided that was just a great partnership. They really wanted to work together. So that's kind of how we ended where we were or where we are. And our conversations with Urban Edge Network really started over 2 years ago when we met them at a Gulf Coast Athletic Conference meeting.
So one of the goals of this new 2-part streaming initiative was to engage broader audiences. What are the 2 parts of this? How do the 2 parts of this initiative help achieve that goal?
Yeah, I think on its most basic level, just 2 different places to find the game. I think we organically will help in that endeavor. How we ended up with 2 different partners, though, it's a little bit of a unique setup, I think. But we knew the Urban Edge Network brought a lot to the table as far as their connections to the ad agencies that represent some of the biggest brands, and so we knew that ad-supported model really could work with them. They're more geared towards their platform is more geared towards a live broadcast setup, as opposed to pay-per-view, or as opposed to video on demand, et cetera. They will have it on demand, but what we recognized through the conversation was a partnership with someone like Visaic, who is a more traditional portal that our schools will be able to download the games for game film exchange, and our staff will as well. Our schools and our staff will be able to grab 30-second game clips on the fly if we give them that permission. And so we really felt like it had some of those features that we needed, maybe that the UEN platform did not. And so that's how we ended up with 2. And both of these partners have a lot of expertise in just engagement and how to engage people who are already registered, who are already in the system, make sure they know that games are going on, et cetera. And so I think the marketing that they'll be able to do will be extremely helpful. And I think as I was thinking about it, I was trying to think, okay, so how does this play out? We knew we had some good data from our tests, but when you think about it, just on its most basic level, on our subscription service, we would sell maybe 500 or 1,000 subscriptions for a championship, and so you're getting mom and dad. You may not be getting the extended family. You're getting somebody from campus, but not a lot of people from campus. But when you think about when it's free and if it's marketed right by the campus, by the NAIA, just organically, I think that's how you end up with exponentially more eyeballs. I think we've seen 5, 10, up to 20 times as many viewers when we've done the free model in a couple of instances. And so we just think that people are more likely, obviously, to tune in if they've got a connection to the school if it's free.
Do you guys have set KPIs? And you mentioned some of the viewership numbers that you saw through the test in the spring. Do you have a set KPIs, whether it's viewers per day, watch time, depending on whatever platform they're watching the game through? Do you guys have goals that you're trying to hit for each? I think per championship, is it per season? How like detailed are we getting into these KPIs?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we haven't been able to set those just because we have some test models, but we don't really have enough data necessarily that we can set those KPIs. I think we're going to be able to do that in a greater way after the fall championships are completed. So yeah, and I think it will be, it's obviously going to be, number of eyeballs, et cetera. And I think we'll end up with, and one of the things that I think was attractive to the Urban Edge network and to the advertisers is it's live sports content, which a lot of that content is already being utilized by other networks. And so this was an opportunity for them to get in, and then they know that with live sports content, people tend to stay longer. And so I think that was really attractive, and that's what we bring to the table for the Urban Edge network is their primary constituency so far has been the HBCU athletic conference. And so this expands their network nationwide, and I think the brands are really excited about that. You have 240 schools from all throughout the country. You've got over 10,000 student athletes who will be competing in those final site championships at some point in time. So I think it's just a real great opportunity to increase the number of eyeballs and the reach and the brand of the NAIA, and also the association with some of those primary brands. I think is really exciting. During men's lacrosse, I think the advertisers were Nissan and Acura and Capital One, et cetera. So Urban Edge has access to those ad agencies for those really top brands.
On Urban Edge specifically, how pivotal is the reach that they already have in selecting them as a partner, but also we saw soon after you guys made your announcement with them, this probably a month ago as we sit here right now, they also partnered with DIRECTV as a sole distributor for their network. What does all that kind of add up to for the NAIA?
Yeah, that's I'm not sure how much. I'm not sure how much leverage the NAIA provided in that conversation, but I know Hardy Pelt, who's their chief revenue officer, and has been a great partner throughout all these conversations. I know he was mentioning NAIA in a lot of those meetings, and they were excited about it. To be honest with you, they knew that we had championships throughout the country, got opportunity in the future, I think, for regular season and maybe opening round competitions that could be some live content for them. So I think it's been I think it certainly helped, and we're excited about the opportunity to be on linear. Things are certainly heading towards streaming in a whole variety of ways. And I think even Hardy said he was kind of surprised that this DIRECTV opportunity came up, but he's excited about it. I think we'll have the opportunity for those championships that are produced at a high level to be on linear in addition to everything else that we have going on.
And what are some of the, we mentioned some, not maybe having a full grasp of what the right KPIs are as we sit here right now before the fall championships. I imagine the same is probably true from a revenue perspective. You'll have a better idea as we sit here maybe a year from now. You've gone through the whole sports calendar. from a cost standpoint, what are some of the initial cost implications that the NAIA is thinking about for championship sites and member institutions that are hosting?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is on the member institutions that are hosting, the model doesn't change that much. Right now, we work with them to find the right local production company or local or regional production company, and they really contract with those production companies. We might end up changing that model, to be honest with you, as we get further into this. So really, and for the most part, they've been producing at a sufficient level, and so I don't think that's going to change things in a big way. And for our member institutions, obviously, to view from wherever will be free of charge. Our financial model, there's still a lot to be determined, to be honest with you. But we had on the pay-per-view model, we were in the $150,000 to $200,000 in revenue, and then you had some expenses that hung off of that, and some revenue share with our hosts, et cetera. And so we'll kind of retain some of that model, but we do feel like we can surpass that revenue with the ad sales model. And we've got some additional expenses to build the Visaic portal. We had some expenses. We've invested in some graphics packages so we can standardize the look and feel across all of the NAIA championships. It's been a goal of our athletics communications and championships team for a number of years, and so we were able to make that happen with some other partnerships. And so we feel like not only going to a free model is going to help us in those, in just increasing the reach of NAIA championships, but also just gives us some impetus and some resources to reinvest in the production side and really give it a more standard and just a better quality look.
You mentioned the ability to maybe branch out from just the national championship sites. Is that part of the 5-year initiative here? Is that maybe some point down the line, year 3, 4, 5, that becomes a part of this whole initiative?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, with both those partners, actually, Visaic is kind of a more traditional pay-per-view model, and so they definitely would like to gain some access to our schools and our conferences. Like I said, their primary client base is in Canada, and they've got a lot of them. They do some really quality work up there, but they definitely are wanting to engage with our schools and our conferences, and so is Urban Edge Network. So we really have two kind of primary endorsed streaming providers that we might be able to give access to our schools, and so I think there's definitely a possibility now. The experience I think of our conferences is sometimes they have a tough time even getting 10 or 12 schools on the same page with a streaming provider, but a good number of them have had some success, and but I think there's definitely an opportunity for a true NAIA network that includes more than just our final site championships. We know that the opening rounds right now are streamed by the host. And they can choose at this point whether it's free or pay-per-view, and so I think that's something that we'll be analyzing as we go through this first year or two as to how we want to approach that. And we've been picking the brains of a lot of people on our campuses and in our conference offices, and use them as a sounding board as we were trying to make these decisions, because it's so important. And they had some great feedback, not only on the free model. Obviously, people don't want to pay for it if they don't have to, but they also gave us a lot of good feedback on. We had been with ESPN for the championship games in a lot of sports, and they thought that was confusing to the viewer. You've got to find a new platform for the last game, et cetera. And so we're also glad that we're able to just show all the games at a final site, start to finish, on the same platform, and we can we'll start promoting that, and already have been promoting that to all of our members as we send out our qualifier information, et cetera. And then next week, as we head into cross country on the 22nd, is our first launch here. We'll be promoting that in a really big way.
Yes, I imagine a lot of guys will be happy that they don't have to switch back and forth and figure out where everything is all over the place on top of every other streaming platform that everybody else has.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the challenges that you and the association are thinking about as you take your first kind of foray into this new initiative come 2 weeks from now?
Right. I think the main challenge, a lot of it is going to be about education. There's 2 different places you can watch it. UEN has an app. NAIA Network doesn't yet, but it will in the wintertime. And so just making sure that there's a clean way to explain to people, here are the places that you can find it. Both of them are live and on demand. And one of them, you register with NAIA Network. You don't have to with the Urban Edge Network. So I think just educating the consumer will be part of it. Always just verifying that we've got a quality production on site. That's not necessarily new, But as we launch this, we really need to get off on the right foot. And so making sure that we're as buttoned up as we can be on the production side. And then obviously just, making sure that the stream is a clean stream where we'll be sending it to 2 different places. And so we're doing a lot of testing, as you can imagine, to make sure that it's a clean signal and that there's no surprises. And obviously they'll be doing testing even the day before, et cetera. And so I think those are probably the main challenges, and some of them aren't necessarily new. But I think just making sure people know where to go. And I think we've got a great opportunity, obviously, because promoting it as a free opportunity, I think you're going to capture people who might be more passive college soccer fans, things like that. They wouldn't necessarily pay $9.99 for a game or $20 for the entire tournament, but I think they're more likely to watch if we promote it right, because it's a free stream.
And you mentioned some of the technical aspects of all this stuff. As you think about expansion, maybe years down the line, what are some of the technical thresholds that you guys have right now and may increase over time? Or are they kind of set? Every broadcast going to be a X number of cameras set up, this number of personnel, et cetera?
Yeah, it changes by sport, as you can imagine. And I'm not necessarily an expert. I'm kind of learning the technical side of a lot of this as we're trying to manage this project. I wouldn't be surprised at some point in the future if we had somebody in-house who really spent a lot of time in this area, who does have some of those technical chops. But I think we're putting together a standard broadcasting manual. We've always had broadcasting standards that we articulated to our hosts and to our production companies, but I think we're trying to really standardize that and make sure that we're up in the ante where we can, and and have a conversation with the production company. Hey, if we want X, Y, and Z, how much more does that cost? Let's make sure that we're investing where we think we can get the best return. So I think the technical side of it certainly is important, and I think that standard broadcast manual is going to help us. I really like what we've seen. We're almost to I think by the end of this week, we'll be done with our standard graphics packages, and that look, I think, is going to be really good. We won't have it for cross country, but we'll have it for all the other fall sports, and we really like how that is shaping up. I think it'll just add to the professionalism of the look, and then as we go through the fall, I think as always, we identify things that we might be able to improve on, and we also have this summer we engaged with a consultant in this production space, producing coordinator for a high-level production company. He's been so helpful, just translating some of the language for us and just telling us where the most important things are and where some of the pitfalls are as we try and build this out, so we can launch it in a really positive way for, ultimately it's a better experience for our student athletes with more people watching.
Absolutely. So Kevin, I'll get you out of here in this last question. This probably taking a step back, a little bit bigger picture. How does this streaming initiative fit within the NAIA's new strategic plan? And the goals you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, it supports one of the new pillars of our strategic plan is about brand advocacy, and we think this can really go hand in hand with that. Obviously, we want people talking about the NAIA in a really positive light. We want our members advocating, whether it's the president of the school, anybody in the athletics department, the student athletes who have a wide network of people. We want them, advocating for the NAIA and talking positively about the NAIA. On an ongoing basis, and to the extent that we can provide, PR kits, media kits for some of the administrators, that's great. But I think just having a high quality national championship streaming production that's free of charge, that really expands the number of eyeballs and then the number of people watching. I think just inherently that should help support the brand. Non-dues revenue is always a key component for what we've got going on, and so we can support our members in a greater way. And we've been able to grow that pie over the years, and we think this gives us an opportunity to grow it even more with the ad sales opportunities with Urban Edge Network.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining me. We're excited to see the first championship roll out here in a couple of weeks and see everything the NAIA's new streaming package has to offer.
All right, I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for inviting me.